Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum. Straight talk about you and your money. Now from the BizTalk studios, here is Gary Kaltbaum.
And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I'm Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. It is Wednesday, September 11th. And I must tell you, woke up today to a morning show on one of the networks. And by the way, this is not an indictment. The initial hour, they spent more time on Taylor Swift than 9/11. Now, in the second hour, to be fair, when they went through the moments of silence, they covered it. But wow, it really is a wow. The farther we get away from it, the less, of course, depending on how it affected you or your family. I still remember exactly where I was standing. Downtown Orlando office when the first airplane was trying to remember exactly how it was. I think they first showed the hole in the building, and I'm not going to mention who, but a certain somebody on the financial channel said it's a small airplane, and all I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. I was just at the World Trade Center about 9 months before. That is not a small private plane. And then, of course, everything else. I remember exactly where I was standing. I remember exactly when I walked in to the manager's office saying, that's no effing small plane. And then when the second one hit, the F-bombs came out, terror attack, and all that. I did not have any family or close friends that passed in the terror attack. I knew a person in the industry I met him a couple of times, and I also met somebody through a thing I was used to do called tradingmarkets.com, somebody that to this day I believe kept his suit that was full of whatever fell on top. And I think he put it in an acrylic case or something like that. We can't forget it. And let me tell you what we really can't forget. If you have a chance, 60 Minutes replayed an hour-long show on the firemen and women. And in case you don't know, after the first building went down, those people in uniform went up into the second tower knowing there was a damn good chance it was going down also, and they were going to die. It was told during this show that as they were going up, they were hugging others that weren't going up and not saying good luck, but goodbye. That's unbelievable. Most of us will never be in a position where you have to choose life or death in order to save someone or do something. And without even blinking an eye, these heroes, knowing there was a very good chance because the first tower went down, still went up. I can't even imagine that. I couldn't even. Anyway, I just wanted to start the show because we really cannot forget ever that happening. And the simple reason why there are so many that are out there that would love to get their hands on this country again. It's the reason why Israel is telling every one of these racist, anti-Semitic jackasses that say, calm down, whatever. There's a reason why. How, as a country, do you have your enemies that just killed 1,200 people and are saying they'll do it 1,000 times over? How do you just lay back and do nothing? Interesting thoughts, huh, ladies and gentlemen? We start with that. And let's just 10 seconds of just hanging. We segue. For all of you that love Donald Trump, I have a message. Missed opportunities, unforced errors. The good news, and I don't know if you know this, that debate last night will be off the table within a couple of days. Nobody's going to even be thinking about it. Everybody's going to be moving on. The people that were going to vote for Trump are still going to vote for Trump. Not one of them is going to go by the wayside. The people that are going to vote for Kamala Harris is still going to vote for Kamala Harris. There's still over 50 days. Why am I starting this way? Because I don't think Kamala Harris could throw a knockout punch to Donald Trump, though they think they did. But Donald Trump had an amazing opportunity to throw the knockout blow and blew it. Absolutely blew it. You know, here we prosecuted the last 3+ years of the Biden-Harris administration perfectly for each and every one of you. Donald Trump did not, until his closing statement where he didn't have enough time, where he said, why didn't you do all of this in the last 3.5 years? But he had 90 minutes. And I don't care about the moderators. We knew. Listen, just so you know, these anchors and reporters that are in the tank, they don't care about you or I. They don't care that half the country is probably pissed at them. They don't care. They knew what they were going into, and what they did was prosecute Trump and left her alone. We knew that was going to happen, but whoopee-doo. So what? If anything, it makes them look bad and gives a little juice to Trump. But I want you to think about something. For any of you that know Trump and are going to talk to him going forward, here was the missed opportunity. In the last 3.5 years, Biden-Harris told us the border was secure as they allowed, and let me be clear with the words, allowed, let in 10 million people across the border illegally. By the way, it's illegal to cross the border. And as the immigration subject came up, it lasted 30 to 45 seconds as Trump segued into other stuff. I love that word, segue. The number 2 polling on what the electorate care about is immigration, and Trump didn't say a freaking word. Maybe a sentence. And segued. 10 million across the border. Missing children. People dying in trucks coming across the border. Many people dying. Gotaways where Mayorkas, the Homeland Security, Biden, Harris admitted in the past, oh, they don't know where some of the people are, and there may be terrorists. Not a word of that to the country. Not a word of Trump prosecuting immigration, except a sentence or two that just went by the wayside. The number 2 most important thing to the electorate. But he talked about cats and dogs. And of course, the number 1 worry for the electorate is their lives. Up next, we'll put a bow tie on it, and then the most ridiculous day in the markets I've seen in a very long time. I think I've said that a couple of times in the last few months. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
Hi, I'm Gary Kaltbaum, host of the nationally syndicated radio show Investor's Edge. We're not just handsome radio people. We manage investors' money for a living, specializing in fee-based discretionary money management. No big commissions, just a fee on the assets that's managed. We also provide a full range of personalized services, including retirement planning, fixed income, and educational needs, all to assist you in achieving your financial goals. Understanding not all individuals have the same needs, we'll carefully evaluate your personal goals to determine a proper investment strategy. If your current approach to investing is not getting you to where you would like to be, call us to make an appointment for a complimentary portfolio review. The number to call is 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. That's 888-422-5559. Investment advisory services offered through Kaltbaum Capital Management.
It's time to switch on the integrator units and get the brain cells working.
You're listening to
Hey, this promises to be fun.
Investor's Edge
The last bastion of quality programming.
with Gary Kaltbaum.
It doesn't get better than this.
Okay. So what's the number 1? People being able to sleep at night because of how they feel about what they spend a lot of their time with. Their jobs, their family, their checkbook, and the like. So over the last 3.5 years, we had the worst bout of inflation since the 70s. Now, blame who? Don't care. My wonderful father, Herb, that's going to be 93 on October 20th, says, whoever is running the show, it's under their watch. That's what matters. So under their watch, the worst bout of inflation ever. And what did Trump do? It was a side note. Candidate Kaltbaum would have been prepared and said, under this administration, we had the worst bout of inflation, and they lied about it, saying that when they came in, inflation was 9% when it was only 1.5%. And they had to be called on the lies. And when we're talking inflation, let me give you some numbers. And then his candidate Kaltbaum took out, you couldn't bring notes, but his brain, I would have listed 10 to 20 things of where they were 3.5 years ago and where they are today. And then in the midst of the debate, not at the end, state, well, why didn't you do anything about it? Health insurance is up this much. Home insurance is up this much. Car insurance is up this much. Rent is up this much. Chips, food, eggs, tobacco, paper goods, household products, everything. The basket of goods that was $100 3 years ago is $124 today. Yet Vice President Harris sits here and tries to erase the last 3.5 years and tell you what she's going to do next. Why would you trust somebody who's failed on that? Nope. Cats and dogs. Viktor Orban, the guy who runs Hungary that nobody's ever heard of. My crowds are big. Nobody cares. Inflation. Immigration. The size of government. She was attacking Trump on his debt and deficits, and he didn't say a freaking word. Imagine that. The administration that's running record deficits, championship belt deficits, attacked Trump on his deficits and also lied about them because they included the COVID spending in there. And Trump didn't say a word. But he talked about cats and dogs and Orban and crowds. Candidate Kaltbaum would talked about how federal spending was $4.4 trillion the year before COVID, and with COVID you had to raise it and went up to $6.5 trillion. And under Biden and Harris, we're now at over $7 trillion, and looks like $2.2 trillion is debt. But they tell you they've lowered the debt. How many lies are they going to tell the American public about your treasure? Nope. The CBO has said because of this trajectory, we're going from $35 trillion to $56 trillion in 10 years, which is $2 trillion a year, and they're usually low. Not a word. Taxes. She's proposed unrealized taxes, higher corporate taxes, higher individual taxes. They had proposed a wealth tax, though they got rid of it. They get rid of the Trump tax cuts, which, by the way, you cannot piecemeal. That means everybody loses the tax cuts. All taxes go up. Not a word. And now Trump's saying it's the best debate he ever did. It was a gargantuan missed opportunity on somebody that to me was a dartboard of failure. And he threw no darts. Yeah, a little bit here and there. Unbelievable. Stunning, in my opinion. He's got 50 some odd days now to prosecute what I've just stated to you. Because I have news for you. I have no use for Trump, you know that. I'd rather have somebody else. But the trajectory, this woman with Biden, and Biden's going to be gone, the trajectory they want to take us on the size of the taxes they want to confiscate the wealth of this country and put into their hands is unimaginable. I have been telling you about the great financial con over the last couple of years, and that is spend us into oblivion first and then come after the wallets. And boy, oh boy, they have perfected it. And they've been talking democracy and democracy my ass. Look what they did with Biden. They cooed him out and waited it out until they knew there was going to be no primary. There was no election to put her in this position. I don't care what anybody else says. A gargantuan missed opportunity. I don't care about the ABC turds. Doesn't matter to me. The good news for Trump is they still has time. And the good news for Trump, I can promise you, They actually did him a little bit of service, these morons running ABC, the moderators. And she's still that dartboard of failure. But if they don't get out and make their points, President Harris. And if they get the House and Senate, and the good news is I don't think they're going to have the Senate. They may get the House. I think the Senate will be in Republican hands. That'll at least stop her to a certain extent. But if by chance they get both, you've been warned. That's my take. Next up, wow! The market. That's up next on Investor's Edge.
Listening to
America is talking.
Investor's Edge.
He's got to be pleased with that. The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
With Gary Kaltbaum.
Comes highly recommended. You're going to feel better if you talk to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dow was down 700 in the morning. 700. A continuation of blasting the financials and everything economically sensitive. Another horror show of a morning. But during the morning, something was up. And we said it to the peeps, and we think, after all, sometimes it takes after the close for us to really get the thoughts together. The NASDAQ 100 and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index were holding up pretty well. At 500 Dow down, the SOX was flat. It only went down after it was down about 700, but not down much. The Dow at around 3:50 p.m., 10 minutes to the close, was flat. 700-point reversal. And I'm always asked, how does that happen? I don't know. What I do know is people asking me about shorting in the morning weren't asking about shorting in the afternoon. I don't know what happens in 6.5 hours in one day. I just know what the outcome was. On that reversal, the NASDAQ, which was pretty much flat, but in that last move down for the Dow, was down 200, was up 300 at 3:50 p.m. 500-point swing. Now, I must tell you, that's not even 3% move. But I got news for you. In the scheme of things, those are big 3% moves. The semiconductors that were flat finished up about 4.5% on the day. And then at 350, with the Dow flat, we finished up 124. The NASDAQ was about 300, maybe 295, finished up 370. A great move in, for me, most important area of the market, and that's the semis. And I'm thinking, this is, when you have a day like today, to come out and say, this is, but I must tell you what it absolutely looks like is that big semiconductor index retested the 4,500 area that it hit in August with it was at 4,300 but reversed, and retested the 4,500 area in April. It was a little bit lower but reversed within a day. And for now, that's enough. And they just juiced the hell out of it as NVIDIA had some conference day today and said, hey, things are great. And jammed. And all the semis did what we call a retest of the prior low. And at the close today, I want to say successfully, I don't want to jinx it, but man, that looks like success. And stocks that were getting trashed in the morning reversed completely. Goldman Sachs of import that dropped $22 yesterday was down another 10, finished up 4. I already done my scans, and I'm like, wow. And tomorrow's another day. Beats the hell out of me, but very strong. I'm measuring my words here. Finally, a change of complexion in the all-important semiconductors led by the Grand Poobah and NVIDIA. Still 1,000 points below July's high. But man, oh man, we know about the semis. They are paper thin. They are led by the few. When I scan the 80 semiconductor stocks that I follow, I can tell you there really is at this point 15 that drive the bus, 65 that are just bleh. Now, the recent weakness, and last week was really weak, the damage that has been done does not repair very easily. But man, oh man, that was one hell of a reversal to the upside today. I have nothing bad to say about it. Volume picked up on the NASDAQ nicely. The S&P picked up a little bit. The fact that we finished strong is good to see. I don't want to jinx this because when you have crazy moves, and let me just state for the record, we have had some crazy moves since mid-July. And I know we're still September, but I deal in real time what happened today. And what I'm really thinking about today, and I always try to add things to what I call my little repertoire. Say that word 10 times fast. Is today I knew the semis finally had some really good relative strength. And when the market was down 500 and then went down to 700, I was thinking, what if we drop 1,000? But I really knew that if this market had a reversal, and I even told the peeps, I even said to them, and this is not, I didn't predict anything and not acting like I knew what the hell was going on. I had said, we'll see if they can reverse it. Going backwards to that time when the Dow was back up only down 500 and the NASDAQ and the semis were flat, that should have been a pretty damn good clue that if the Dow can rebound and indeed reverse a decent amount, the semis would get going, and man, they jumped all over them today. Now keep in mind, Micron closed at 90, it was 157. This is the highs of July and June. Applied Materials up 8 at 186. It was 255. Lam Research today was up 35 to 766. It was 1,130. ASML Holdings was up $48 today to 800. It was 1,110. That tells you how far down they are. Man, it feels like they whooped the sellers today. That's what it felt like. If I had them to do my bidding now, boy, would I love just some quiet little nothingness the next couple of days. But I do believe we have another inflation number coming out. And then a continued stair step up. For me, a wow day. And interesting enough, you know, it came down today. What do you think? The consumer staples defensive. Why? Because market went a little bit more on the offensive. So I'm going to do a double scan tonight to see what the heck's going on. I know exactly what's leading, what's lagging, what's new highs, what's not, what's moving out, what isn't. And we'll see if we can frickin' get going, because I got news for you. I know what the leadership in the market is at any and all times. But you need the big bold letter M. Not gagging. And man, we have seen some serious gagging recently. So that was today. And don't ask me why. I have no clue. The only news was NVIDIA saying, I believe the quote was, things are great. Whether or not that's true or not, we'll find out in due time. And again, a lot of these semis are weighed down, so whether or not, we'll see. Yeah, at NVIDIA at conferences, demand is great, trying to fulfill everybody's needs. But it's really tense. I don't know what that means. It's really tense. That I don't know what that means. So, I don't know what else to tell you. It was another wow day, and we've had a series of them this year. And let me be clear, they're a pain in the arse. I don't like them. Reversing down or reversing up, big gaps to the upside, big gaps to the downside. Gary doesn't like them. Hey, up next, what else we got for you? This is the one and only Investor's Edge.
You're listening to...
What are we waiting for?
Well, what are you waiting for?
1, 2, ready, go.
Action!
Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum.
Oh, and by the way, for those of you who have loved Trump, don't be emailing me mad. You know who you should be emailing mad? The people that said he did a great job last night. Constructive criticism is the greatest type of criticism anybody can get if they'd listen. If they'd listen. And yes, we know this guy Muir, who, by the way, is the highest rated network news guy at 6:30 p.m. And I have no idea who the woman was. They were biased hacks. And they knew it. They knew what they were going to do. And they did not give a crap that people knew it and saw it and were going to complain about it. They had a job to do, and that was prosecute Trump and kiss the arse of Harris. And they did a wonderful job of that, not questioning her BS, but boy, oh boy, they were questioning Trump's BS. By the way, can anybody tell me if anybody's eating cats and dogs? Do you know there are people out there saying 100% yes, it's going on? And then you hear no, that it's not. I don't know. But who cares? And by the way, in the immigration front, I do believe Trump did mention those videos in Aurora, Colorado. But he just goes from A to Z and back and forth. I would have said... I would have looked at her and Vice President Harris. You said the border was secure for 3.5 years. I would have looked at her and asked her, have you seen the videos of these gangs from Venezuela taking over whole apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado? Have you seen them, Vice President Harris? Nope. But he did ask her about 7 to 8 months abortions, and she didn't answer that. But he let that pass also. Remember, I have no use for him. I may have to call them up and help the guy out because we cannot have her with the economy and with our treasure. We can't. I'll have to bite my lip and hope that he gets it right for 4 years. I know who she is. She has created a facade, a mirage, a mannequin of a person to win an election. Bernie Sanders, by accident, let the cat out of the bag on the weekend in an interview. We can't have the debt, the deficits, and the confiscation of wealth that she wants to do, and I know it. And those that have been following me for years know I've hit it pretty well out of the park on politicians. Back to the market. Normally, usually, most often, when you have one of these monumental reversal days like today, it puts in a good low. That's normally, usually, most often. We did not say 100% of the time. The reason why this occurs is because today leaves an identifying mark of washing out sellers at the most inopportune time. And when all those last sellers are gone, the buyers get the upper hand and lift the market. And the fact that it was led by the semiconductors, our number one sector, we think is telling. Because as we have stated time and time again, it is not often markets can ascend in a meaningful fashion without the semiconductors doing some good. And boy, oh boy, recently have they been frickin' slammed. I get asked all the time, how does these moves happen? How does the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index in, 7 days want to go from 5,050 down to 4,500 and then in one day, boom, back to 4,900? Don't know. It's just what we have right now, a faster moving market. And the semiconductors have this AI thing going on. And it's a very over-owned area, so when the institutions can get their teeth into it, boy, they take a big bite. And again, a pretty darn good chance of what we call the retest. Just draw a line horizontally. Go up 3 inches on a piece of paper and draw a line diagonally down. Draw a line back up, diagonally up. Make a V. Then draw down again, back to that line, to have a second, we'll call it the second part of the W. And then jump off of that. That is what we call a retest. Others call it the double bottom. And as of this second at the close today, that's what you got in price movement on the semiconductors that are still, again, way below the highs, nicely below the 50-day moving average, just above the longer-term 200-day moving average. But I think we got what we call symmetry today at these levels of importance. 2 words. Make it 3. But don't blink. How's that? But don't blink. An inflation number came out today a little hotter than expected. But the fact that oil prices have really croaked over the last couple of weeks, that should be pretty darn good for the... By the way, oil prices 82 down to 66 since beginning of July. That is lower inflation, any way you cut it. Next Wednesday, the Fed. Have a great evening. those that have been really, well, we've all been affected by 9/11, but you intimately will continue to think of you and say prayers for you and your families, and hope that something like that never happens again. Have a great evening. Drive carefully. I'll be on with Stuart Varney tomorrow at 10 a.m. Fox Business Network. And until then, when you get home, very simple, make sure you hug your family. Make sure you hug your children. They'll feel better. You'll feel better. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks for joining. Serenity now. Good night.
This has been Investor's Edge with Gary Kaltbaum on BizTalk. To listen to past episodes or to get in contact with Gary, go to GaryK.com. That's GaryK.com.